we will be joined by the amazing Kelly Stewart, Head of Communications and Marketing at the Sick Children's Trust. She'll be telling us more about the alternative she and her team have come up with when they were basically faced with the cancellation of the most lucrative event of the year.
Hi, I'm Kelly Stewart and I'm the Head of Communications at the Sick Children's Trust. I am here in my dining room come makeshift office. Where are you guys? You can put in your chat wherever you are today. There's also the Q&A function, so if you've got any questions, feel free to pop them in there and I'll be answering them a bit later and as we go along. So I'm going to be talking to you today a bit about our online auction house, which was our first virtual event that we had. But first of all, I'll give you a little bit of information about the Sick Children's Trust in case you don't know who they are. So we're the charity that provides home from home accommodation to families who have a seriously ill child in hospital. And we've got 10 of these homes from home around the country. We're a medium-sized charity, small to medium-sized charity. And as I say, this is the first ever virtual event that we've done. A little bit about me. So I've worked for the Sick Children's Trust for 2 years, but I've worked in the charity sector for about 15 years now. I feel like that's a really long time. I've worked for all sorts of different charities in different kind of PR and comms roles. And yeah, I came to the Sick Children's Trust a couple of years ago. So I'm going to get into the presentation and tell you a bit about our online auction house event. So last year, like most charities, all charities, I would say, we were hit with the realization that we weren't going to be able to do any face-to-face events. So we really quickly decided that we needed to come up with something virtual online that could fill a bit of a gap for us. So we came up with online auction house and it ran for 2 weeks from the 18th of October until the 1st of November last year. So a bit about how we came to come up with this event. We historically and annually had a supper club event. So it was an event that was aimed at high net worth individuals and major donors and some of our corporate partners as well. And on average raised around about £200,000 a year. So incorporated into the event was an auction and the auction raised quite a lot of the money. So we really wanted to come up with an event that appealed to that audience, so the high net worth individual, major donor kind of audience. But we'd wanted for a long time to diversify the supper club event. So we wanted to look for something digital that would potentially help us diversify. And obviously coming up with a digital event made that a bit easier. So in sort of June time, our fundraising manager came back from maternity leave and she's the one who kind of historically would run the supper club event. And we worked with her to think about what we were going to do to plug the gap because we couldn't run that event. And we talked about quite a lot of different things. And by July, we had come up with, let's do this auction house. We know that it's going to appeal to our major donors and high net worth individuals. And hopefully we can reach out to some new audiences and also our other supporters. So the event we came up with was online auction house. It was led by the fundraising manager with the support of comms and marketing. We had to work really closely together. It was obviously really important and we did have some challenges, which I'm going to come on to in a bit. But being a digital event meant that we could be really agile, we could make decisions quickly, and we had such a short time frame to actually execute the event. It was good that it was digital because we didn't have long to do it. So kind of from the time of July, we got planning. And then by sort of first week in October, we had to launch this event. The good thing was that, again, it being digital, the designs, we didn't have to worry about printing anything. So we didn't have the print lead times or anything like that, which made it much easier. And also using digital design meant that we could easily change the designs for our social media channels and everything we were doing online if we wanted to, because they were easy to edit. It also meant that we could just make decisions and react really quickly whenever we needed to. So exactly what we did, with our supper club event, our face-to-face event, we had historically used Givergy to process all of the donations and kind of run the auction element for us. They also have an online auction platform, which was great for us because we could then utilise that. It's such an easy to use platform, so it was easy for us to upload the content that we wanted, but it also looked really good. And something that was super important to us was that it had a simple sign up process, because we obviously didn't want to have any barriers to people signing up to it. So yeah, that was one of the really big bonuses of working with Givergy. The other really great thing that they did was send out automated emails and text messages. So we didn't have to worry about doing that. Essentially, once you signed up, you gave your phone number and email address, and you got reminder text messages or emails. If you had bid on something and you got outbid in the auction, then they would send you a text so that you would know. At the end of it, if you won a prize, you got an email to say that you'd won, and then you got another email to tell you how you could pay for your for the thing that you'd won. So that made our lives much, much easier. We promoted through our social media channels and through our e-newsletters, and I'm going to go on to talk about that a bit more as we go through the presentation. But they were the main kind of two ways that we promoted the event. The other thing that we did do, particularly to our major donors, was make personal approaches. So we had quite a big group of engaged major donors who probably would have ordinarily come to a face-to-face event. So we just made personal approaches to them through the fundraising team, and we had really good uptake from them actually. So in terms of the prizes that we had for the event, we had quite a lot of traditional prizes that were already sourced for our face-to-face event. So we had things like money can't buy prizes, kind of high-end designer handbags and purses and all that kind of stuff, sports memorabilia, and that was all great. But being that this was a virtual event, it gave us an opportunity to offer some other things to supporters that we wouldn't have been able to do at a face-to-face event. Because of COVID, we had to close all of the kitchens and the living spaces in our homes from home. Because of for the safety of the families staying with us and also for the safety of our staff. So parents who might have been on the hospital ward with their sick child all day, coming back to the house, they couldn't make a cup of tea or coffee because our kitchens were closed. And we know that's something that they really value, and it's something really simple. Something as simple as a nice cup of tea can actually make you feel better. So one of the things we did was offer, for £10, people could buy tea and coffee for our homes from home for parents, and that was obviously something that they felt would be really beneficial, and we ended up selling I think over 200 of those, which was amazing. The other thing we were able to do was say to people, you know, this particular home from home needs a new sofa or a new television, and people could buy those. And I think supporters really like to feel like they're giving something tangible. So not only were people able to buy these money can't buy prizes, which we were hoping that they would go for thousands of pounds, but also we had the cheaper items and the really tangible things that would benefit our families directly. And that worked really, really well for us. And the other thing we did was utilise our celebrity supporters. So we have quite a few different celebrities who support our charity. Our president is Michael Crawford, and he offered a prize, which I'm going to tell you a bit more about. And we also had Anton de Beck, and we had some celebrity chefs who offered some prizes, and they were all really well received. So that's what we did. Moving on to something that was a bit of a challenge, and I'm sure you've all faced this, having to work remotely. We're still all working remotely at the moment. I know some people are going back into the office here and there at different organisations, but we're still 100% working remotely. Now, normally when you're in the office environment, you can easily walk up and ask people questions. We didn't have that luxury, obviously, because we were all in different areas of the country or different places around London. But of course, internal communications is super, super important. And because this is a new event, I think it was even more important. There were so many questions going back and forth. You know, on both sides, on the fundraising side and on the comms and marketing side. So we set up regular Zoom meetings so we could address any questions and cover everything off. And that was right from the kind of briefing stage when we first started talking about the project all the way through to the end. We made sure that we had regular phone conversations. I feel like phone conversations are a bit of a novel thing now. We don't really use the phone to talk to each other. We kind of just Zoom or FaceTime or whatever, but we made sure that we had phone conversations as well. And we made sure that we were available to each other because we needed to have that contact on a fairly regular basis. The other thing that we did, which was really important, we had a shared folder. So we have a shared drive, we had a shared folder where we kept all of the kind of important documents. So we had a social media plan and a full campaign plan about kind of everything that we were going to do. And they were really live working documents, and everybody had access to those, so everybody could see what was happening and when. And one thing that we did, which we hadn't done before, but we thought, actually, let's trial it, and this is a good time to trial it. But we had a communications agreement, which we basically outlined everything that we said we were going to do to promote the event. And we got the fundraising team to agree, yeah, this looks good, we agree to that. Obviously, we could change it as things changed. But really the important thing was that it helped to manage expectations. It's not like we could just walk up to each other's desk and say, hey, you said you were going to do this thing, but let's change it or whatever. But it gave us something to come back to say, look, these are the things we agreed and this is what we've delivered. And it's actually been really helpful, and it's something that we're going to roll out to all of our other events as well. So promotion of the event was done mainly through our social media channels. We didn't do any paid social, it was all organic, and we had really good results. One thing that we were able to do was really segment our audience by prizes. So some of the really high-end prizes, the money can't buy type things, we knew wouldn't be that relevant to our Facebook audience, for example, but actually we could target some of our corporates on LinkedIn. So we did that. And then we had the lower price, sort of lower priced items that we could really push out on our social channels and to a really much broader audience. And again, that comes back to us really wanting to, our objective of wanting to reach out to more audiences. The other thing we were able to do was do some strategically timed social media. So one of those was around Strictly. So we had Anton de Beck who gave us a prize, and we were able to put out some social media on the first night of Strictly, and that got some really good engagement. So we knew that worked. We also sent out a blanket e-newsletter. So to everyone who'd signed up to our email alerts, we thought, look, we've got a really broad range of prizes, and we know we've got a broad range of supporters. So let's do a blanket email to everybody. So we did that, and again, that worked really well. But we also then did some really targeted emails to supporters as well. So for example, again, sort of the high-end prizes we sent out to major donors, and the lower end prizes we sent to our regular supporters. So we were really able to segment our audiences and put out the prizes that worked best for them. Also working in a really agile way with the promotion. So throughout the 2 weeks of the actual event, we knew that some things, we could see what people were bidding on through the platform, and we could see that some of the prizes hadn't been bid on very much at all. And we were like, right, we need to be really flexible with this. We need to put some things out that aren't doing so well. So using the design that the designers had come up with for us, we were able to just quickly drop some images in and put those out. And the other thing that we were able to do was group prizes together. We hadn't really thought about it to begin with, but we thought, hey, why don't we just put some prizes together that are similar, that people might like? And so we were able to do that, and do that quite quickly. And that, again, that worked quite well. So still on promotion, one of our most successful prizes was with our president, Michael Crawford. So he offered a chance to have a conversation. He was going to give whoever won this prize a quick phone call around Christmas time and wish them Merry Christmas. And it proved to be massively popular. So in the end, we had 2 people bidding on it, a bit like, you know, when you get down to the last few people on an eBay bid and everybody really wants it and it pushes the price up. Well, obviously that's what happened with this prize. So 2 people were bidding, somebody won it in the end, and obviously they were really happy. But the person who didn't win contacted us and said, look, I would really, really love this phone call. I'll match the price of whatever the final bid was, if he will agree to give me a phone call as well. So the final price of it was £850. And so Michael Crawford agreed to do a second phone call. So we got that £850 twice, which was absolutely amazing. And again, it's not the kind of thing that you could necessarily do if this was a face-to-face auction, because Michael Crawford wouldn't have been there. You know, it's not like something that you could instantaneously do. And so we found that really good and actually so successful. So the overall results, it's fair to say that from our point of view, it was a really big success. We didn't have a really firm idea of how much it would raise, just because it was the first time we'd done anything like this. We were hoping for around about 20,000, but it raised almost 31, which we were so thrilled with. So we had 150 people register through the Givergy portal, and 70 of those were new supporters. And that was A, really surprising to us, and B, really exciting, because we'd actually only promoted it to our core supporters and through organic social media mainly. So we just felt like that was great. And then we needed to think about how we were going to harness them, because it's a great opportunity. So of the 150 people who registered, 92% of them were active, and that meant they either bid on a prize, or they made a donation, or they bought one of the virtual prizes as well. So again, we were really happy with that, and we think that that did come down to the ease of use on the platform. We used a bit.ly link for everything, the same bit.ly link for everything on the whole campaign, and we got was clicked on more than anything else that we've done in the last 12 months, which was really good. I think it just showed that we got the audiences right, and we got the content right for those audiences as well. And as I said, we reached these new audiences, which was super exciting for us. So the things that we learnt, and a few challenges as well, when we were thinking about, what event do we want to do, we knew that we really wanted something that would give us a good return on investment. With all charities at the moment, I'm sure we knew that our fundraising was going to be cut, over the kind of COVID time. There was so much uncertainty. We just knew we wanted something that would give us a good return on investment. And considering we already had most of the prizes, we knew we wouldn't have to spend time sourcing more prizes. We didn't have to pay to print things. The design costs were minimal. Working with Givergy didn't cost very much. I mean, we had a really tiny budget. So we wanted something that was going to give us a good return on investment, and we did get that. We wanted to reach broad audience, and we were able to do that. So that's something we learned through working more digitally. It made it able for us to reach more audiences. We didn't need long lead times for digital, and that was good because we didn't have very much time. So now we know that actually we can put things out and maybe take a few more risks and do more digital events, because we know that it's much easier to do than if you're having to print off fundraising booklets and all that kind of stuff. So we could be really agile, as I mentioned. One thing that was actually quite important to us as a charity, and I think lots of charities often don't ask in a bold way, but when it came to people paying for the prizes that they had won, we just said to them, please, will you pay for the processing fees as part of your donation? And 95% of people did, and that saved us £650, which was amazing. We got some really good audience insight. I think we now know that this kind of thing can appeal to a really broad audience, which is great for us because, we obviously having the face-to-face event is very targeted at a very small audience. It's a room of about 100 people, and we know that this reached many, many more people. So we're really pleased with that. I think a couple of the challenges we had, I think the two main challenges, besides kind of not all being in the office together, was thinking about what's actually happening in the outside world. I mean, it's not like anybody could forget COVID, because we certainly didn't forget COVID, but some of the prizes we had were for holidays, overseas holidays. So one to Portugal, for example, and one to Morocco. So they didn't raise as much money as we'd hoped, because obviously there's so much uncertainty about whether people would actually be able to take them in the future. So that's definitely something we'll think about in the future, just really remembering what's going on in the outside world. And the other really important thing for us was the timing. So every year we launch our Christmas campaign at the beginning of November, and unfortunately we can't move Christmas, it is when it is. And the auction house event we had for the last 2 weeks in October. So there was no gap. Literally, auction house finished on a Sunday and we launched our Christmas campaign on the Monday. We ended up doing a slightly softer launch for the Christmas campaign, which luckily didn't really affect it. It was still a really successful campaign. But what it meant from an internal point of view was that we just didn't have any time in between where we could do the evaluation for auction house and kind of gather ourselves back together before we launched into another big campaign. So that's just something for us that we will definitely need to think of when going forward. So what's next for auction house? So there will be an auction house 2021, which I'm quite excited to say. We've decided to keep the same design. We thought it worked really well, so we'll be saving money in terms of not having anything new designed. We changed the time of it, so we've made it 2 weeks earlier, which will be really helpful, because yes, we will still be launching a Christmas campaign at the same time, but it just gives us that time to have a bit of a breather in between. We have in the process of appointing a committee. So the committee will be responsible for sourcing the prizes mainly. That's a massive time commitment, and actually what will affect the return on investment. So if we have to do that internally, that's a big drain on resource. So having the committee to help will be really beneficial. And we've secured Michael Crawford again for this year, because it was such a big pull. He's got a massive fan club, and they actually put out his prize on their fan club, I think, Facebook. So that definitely helped us as well, and hopefully they'll do that again. And then also just thinking about 2022, because we are actually now thinking about next year already. It's going to be our 40th anniversary. So we're hoping to have a similar supper club face-to-face event focusing on our 40th anniversary. But we're now thinking, because of the success of this online auction house, we might keep the auction element of the supper club online. So that's TBC, but that's how it's looking at the moment, which is quite exciting. And that's it from me. Thank you very much. I hope that was useful for you. And I'm now going to be heading over to answer your questions.
And lovely. And thank you very much, Kelly. Well, good morning, or even good afternoon.
Hi.
Hello, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Very good, thank you, very good. Thank you so much for a very insightful presentation. It was great to see, you know, a fundraising activity in action. So we have loads of questions, and I'm sure a lot of people very much enjoyed it too. So I'll start with the first one. Is the communications agreement just in form on a Excel sheet, like an action point? And if you can develop more about it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So it was more, it's a Word document that we're now using as a template, and it literally it's just a column with dates. So when we were going to deliver specific activity, and then what the activity was, and kind of any comments. And it's really been useful to, I think, as I said, just to manage expectations, because with something like this, you know, we had to work really closely with the fundraising team. Obviously, we wanted to make sure that they understood what we were able to deliver, and then we could deliver against what we said we were going to deliver. Of course, it can be flexible, and we did have to change it, especially towards the end of the auction, when some things weren't doing as well as we thought they were going to be. Then we had to do some more social, but also I think often people put so much on social media in terms of what it can actually do. And yes, of course, it's really powerful, but we also wanted to be clear that, you know, we can't just put out 20 social media posts in a week saying the same thing. And that just helped us to do that. And we could then also just refer back to it afterwards and say, look, this is what we did and this is what worked. And it just makes it easier to see what worked and what didn't, and you can learn from that. So yeah, we're taking it forward for our other campaigns as well. So
well, lovely. And are you building up from that? Are you using still Excel, or are you, picking a specific software for that, or just relying on Excel?
So I think we will just so we're going to keep it in the same sort of format. We do also use Excel spreadsheets for logging the exact social media posts that we're going to put out. So we keep those as live documents that are shared by everybody. Everybody can see them. And we just put in there the exact wording of all the posts, if they're going to have videos attached to them or images, and we keep all of those in Excel. But for right now, also given the fact that we've got really limited budgets, I think we'll just keep them simple as they are.
Keep it simple. Absolutely, keep it simple, and also making sure that the whole team can add to it and really understand the whole sort of legend and everything. So that's very important.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thank you. So moving on to Laura's question. She's asking, why did you decide to only focus on advertising on Facebook? And she's wondering if there was any opportunity to reach out to new audience via paid Facebook advertising.
Yeah. So we did use all of our social channels. So we used Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. So Twitter and Facebook were the two most popular. We did a little bit on Instagram, but our followers on Instagram are much lower. So we wanted to focus on the two that had the biggest audiences. In terms of paid social, we just didn't have the budget for it. We had to keep the budget so tight. So we just didn't have budget for it. And actually, as a charity, Facebook advertising is something that we're quite new to. So we are just really at the moment, we've done a couple of advertising campaigns, but still something we're really dipping our toes into. And I think because there was so much uncertainty around this event, we had no idea how much it was going to raise. Obviously, we'd hoped that it would be successful, but we just didn't want to spend any unnecessary money, I guess. I think looking back and actually going forward, I think we would definitely invest a little bit of money in Facebook advertising. For sure.
Okay, and that's interesting. So that's one of the learnings. I think you also mentioned LinkedIn.
Yeah, we did use LinkedIn actually, because we've got, especially for some of the higher priced items, we know that through our LinkedIn account, lots of our corporate partners and obviously business people, more business people follow that. So we thought we'd have a better chance of getting some people interested by putting the kind of higher priced items on there. It wasn't massively successful. It didn't get a huge amount of engagement, but it was definitely worth a try for us.
Okay, great. That's very, very interesting. Thank you. Will is asking about the costs involved in a Givergy auction.
Yeah. So I'm not sure whether we got discount with Givergy or not, but it was actually the most expensive thing within our whole budget, and it cost £1,500. So I know historically when we've had face-to-face events and they've managed all of the donations and everything, it's a lot more expensive because they also provide big screens and iPads and all that kind of thing. And I think maybe because we'd worked with them before, maybe they gave us a bit of discount. I'm not 100% sure. But I think for the service they provided and the actual platform, £1,500 was really, really well spent.
Okay, so that was good value for money. Okay,
yeah,
good
yeah,
to know.
I think so.
Brilliant, thank you. Moving on to the next one. Do you think you would run another auction again in the future, even if COVID restrictions are lifted?
Yeah, definitely. I think as I said, that question probably came in before I'd addressed it, I'm imagining. So definitely, we really saw the benefit of it. I think the fact that we could make changes quickly, it's obviously much cheaper. So yeah, and even if we do go back to a face-to-face event next year, which we're hoping to, we're still thinking that it might be a hybrid event where we do where we do a bit of both. which, which I think is good. It just means that we can reach so many more people, have a lot more prizes. It's easier to manage. You don't have to have it all there in person. So yeah, I think we definitely will.
Lovely. That's great. James is asking whether you were running any sealed beads, and if you could set more than one item on the platform.
Yeah, so we didn't do sealed bids.
Okay.
It was all completely transparent and open, so everybody could see what other people had bid on. And we had 50 items on there, and they were all going throughout the whole auction at once. So yeah.
Okay. Okay. Brilliant. Um, Somebody is asking whether the Super Club was it exclusive to major donors, and do you think they felt to have this as an alternative? How did the big donors react to that?
Yeah. So interestingly, so Supper Club historically was mainly kind of for some major donors, high net worth individuals, and our corporate partners as well were invited, and often our trustees would bring their clients or people that they were connected with as well, their connections. So major donors and kind of the high net worth individuals made up quite a big chunk of people who won the prizes actually. But the good news was that we were able to get to people who we hadn't reached before. So we had quite a lot of new people, and also quite a few of our supporters. I've got the data. I can tell you exactly what it is.
Oh, lovely. Yes.
I thought I should be prepared and just make sure I know exactly what the split was. So major. So altogether, we had major donors, corporates, and kind of high net worths made up about 15%.
Okay.
Service users who we wouldn't have reached had we done a face-to-face, 17%, which I think was amazing.
Wow, that's amazing.
Really, really good. So yeah, and then we also had, so we have an external fundraising committee in Cambridge, and they've been massive supporters of ours for years and years, and they made up 9% of people who bid. So that, I think tapping into your resources that you've already got is really beneficial as well.
Yeah, your network and other supporters.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very, very interesting. Campion is asking, do you have a list of prizes or the amount you've shown them? Is that something you're able to share or?
Yeah, I'm sure I can.
Yeah.
I may have to double check that, but
Yeah.
I'll get back to you.
Lovely.
Yeah, I'm sure that's absolutely fine. Most of the prizes were things like, there were quite a few sort of there were holidays, and as I said, they went from things that we were hoping to sell for sort of between £2,000 and £5,000, like a day at the Lord's cricket ground, all sorts of sports, sort of high-end sports things, all the way down to a signed football, signed sports shirts, and everything in between, luxury handbags, luxury purses. So yeah, I'm sure we can, but I'll let you know. I can get back to you about that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely. And that leads me to another question from Krishna. So how did you approach sourcing these high-end prizes?
The prizes, yes.
Yeah.
So a lot of the prizes we already had, and they were supposed to be prizes for the auction house event, for the Supper Club event. So we already had them, and so previously we had a committee who helped us source prizes for the Supper Club event. And because obviously we weren't hosting that, we still had all of the prizes. Okay. So that's where we get the majority of them from. We also have a massively hardworking fundraising manager who sources them herself sometimes. We've also been lucky to have volunteers who come and help us source them. Yeah. But generally speaking, it's through the committee and their contacts.
Lovely. Very lucky to have an amazing committee.
Yeah.
That was great. So just for us to remind ourselves, how much was raised through the auction?
Yeah, so it was nearly 31,000.
Okay.
30,825. So yeah, and the amount that we spent was £3,200.
Oh wow! Okay.
So
wow.
Yeah, we were absolutely thrilled with that.
Yeah, and obviously, are you? I guess how is it compare again? How does it compare with the sort of typical auction events?
So yeah, so the face-to-face event, I think
Yeah.
expenditures probably up around more like about 50,000, because
Oh,
with the supper club, we obviously have to
yeah.
hire the venue,
Yeah.
it's the
And the
high-end
food.
dinner,
Mm.
exactly, all the catering and that kind of thing. It's obviously a lot more. So
Okay.
yeah, and of course
Gotcha.
this didn't raise as much, but it was in a completely different format. So I mean, hopefully, and again, it depends on the prizes. I think had we maybe not been in the situation of the pandemic, some of the high end prizes hopefully would have raised more, because, as I say, a
The
couple of them were
trips and yeah.
holidays.
Yeah, yeah, the
And
trips, yeah.
also even things like we had a chef who offered to cook a private dinner for
Oh, I'd
10
love
people.
that.
And at the time, we couldn't visit anybody. And as it
Yeah.
is now, we couldn't visit other people's houses. So I think had we just been in normal times, I still think it could have raised a bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, very soon
Yeah,
we'll be able to
exactly.
host dinner party for 10 people. So
Yeah,
and
can't wait.
obviously for that kind of prizes, I guess how long are they valid for? Did you
Yeah.
extend sort of?
Yes, some of them we were able to extend them.
Mm.
But most of the people who gave the prizes, or the organisations who gave the prizes, have been quite flexible. So we've been very lucky in that
Mhm.
respect.
Got you. Okay. Okay, thank you. Moving on to Rachel's question. So I think we kind of answered
Mm,
obviously the charge that
yeah.
Givergy applied, and obviously uh, do you think that for the next hybrid one, would you maybe use them again, or would you look at
Yeah,
other?
I think
Yeah,
we would.
yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think we would. Their platform was so easy to use from the user's point of view, which is obviously really important, but also from our point of view.
From yours.
The only issues we had with it was sizing of images, which we could do ourselves in the comms and marketing team anyway.
Mm.
So that was obviously fine. But in terms of the way it looked, it was so easy to bid on the prizes. Everything looked great. Yeah, I think the whole kind of user experience with the platform was so good. We would definitely want to use them again.
Oh, lovely. Well, that's great. Moving on. So somebody is asking whether do you think you will run this alongside a future fundraising event when possible, and continue to engage with new audience? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think, as I said before, we would definitely look to do something like this.
Yeah.
And I think we're, even if it wasn't part of a face-to-face event, I feel like this could be a standalone event. But I think so for this year, definitely we're going to do it virtually again. And then for next year, I think, I mean, at the moment it is, TBC, but at the same
Yeah.
time, it has worked so well. And I do think we're going to see it much more, this kind of hybrid events
Yeah.
where you can bring
Hybrid.
people together, but you could, because it is a way to reach new audiences and reach people that you wouldn't have been able to with a face-to-face event. I think the face of traditional fundraising is definitely going to change because
Yeah.
of all of this.
Absolutely. And sorry, you might mention that in your presentation,
Mm.
but did you get people from abroad as
We
well?
did, we did.
Yeah.
Not a massive amount, but a few. And we think that it was due to the Michael Crawford Prize, because
Oh, okay.
he's got such a massive international fan base. Unsurprising. I mean, he's a household name in this country, but Phantom of the Opera and just who he is obviously massive everywhere throughout the world. So yeah, we did have quite a few people bid on that, I think.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. And do you see any way to capitalize on that international audience or
Yeah, that's a tricky one, I guess. And it's not something we've ever really addressed very much, because we were a UK
UK?
charity,
Exactly, yeah.
and I think for us, because we do sometimes help families from other countries, because we support Great Ormond Street Hospital with one of our homes from home. We sometimes get families who are from other countries, but it's not a massive market for
I know.
us. So
Yeah.
I'd say probably for right now, maybe not.
Mm-hmm.
But who knows in the future?
Yeah. Yeah, who knows if we're keeping this hybrid, you might have
Exactly.
loads of people from all other countries
Yeah.
joining. But yeah, brilliant. Then somebody else is asking, is this whole principle of online auction, could this work if they don't have any connections with celebrities, or if they're not able to have high end prizes? Do you reckon?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it could. I absolutely think it could, because it's digital. You can reach out to much broader audience. So if you wanted to have prizes that weren't, you know, the money can't buy type prizes, and you just wanted to have a lot of prizes that are worth, you know, a lot less. If you wanted people to be able to bid on things that were 20 or 50 pounds, it opens you up so much more to a much broader audience. So yeah, I definitely think you could.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, yeah, and I quite liked as well the fact that people were also bidding for or funding things that would be actually used by your end users, by your beneficiaries. You know, sofa,
Yeah,
£10. Yeah.
exactly. We it was the first time that we tried anything like that. So in a way, like a virtual gift, if you like. And it was so successful. I think the teas and coffees, we sold a couple of hundred of those,
Mm.
which was amazing, because you can't underestimate how it would feel for a mum who comes back from the hospital. She's been with her sick child all day, and all she wants is a cup of tea. And because of COVID, we had to close all of our kitchens and communal spaces. So we were able to then just get some little kettles and coffee mugs that families could have in their rooms, and they could still have that really simple, basic thing. But I think because it was tangible, people really could understand that feeling. And also things, as you say, that we had sofas and televisions for one of the homes. Again, really simple, basic things, but things that are tangible, and that people think, right,
Yeah,
well, I can give, you know, £1,500 for a sofa, because it's tangible and I
yeah,
can really see where my money's going. So
absolutely.
yeah, they were hugely popular. We'll definitely do those again. And actually, we've started to do some similar things in our shop on our website, because at the moment we can't really sell our merchandise. So we're doing some virtual gifts as well. And again, they've been doing really well.